We have in front of us 4 different wines from 2 different wineries, 2 from Shiran, 2 from Ghito. They're all Israeli wines, all non-mevushal, and all available at kosherwine.com. Quick disclosure, they were all supplied for review purposes from kosherwine.com. Thank you. So first, we're going to start off with Shiran, the Song of the Birds 2020. I think this is a really good choice to kick off these 4 wines of the evening. I would say it's the lightest on the nose. This is the least interesting aromatically of the 4. It was pretty light. Definitely some deep red cherry. It was both light, dry, bright. Not anything really crazy, but pretty solid.
Agree. Dry, cherry, smooth, extremely light on the palate. Really, really easy to drink. I think this would be an easy to drink wine. Not depth as far as flavor goes, but smoothness, I think, would be a good way to describe it.
It's a nice cherry flavor, not strong. It's a light cherry flavor on the palate, and it goes down very smooth. And I'm just wondering, might it get better over time, or is it going to stay?
Yes, I think that's a question dancing on all of our minds for all 4 of these bottles. All 4 of them might be subject to improvement over time with cellaring.
All these bottles are either 2019 or 2020, and so some of these would be considered still young as far as opening these bottles, and allowing time would probably bring out a little bit more of the flavor to some of these wines, especially this first one. But again, the Shiran, the Song of the Birds 2020, very, very smooth, easy to drink at 2020. So as time goes on, it probably would get more flavorful. I would think. Hopefully that smoothness stays.
Sticking with Shiran, we have The Conductor. This is a 2020 release. This is just, as opposed to the previous wine, which had 4 grape varietals, this has just 2. This was, look, the last one had deep red cherry notes. This one has still some cherry notes as well. I will say this, when we talk about these cherry notes, they're not like some wines we've had that have almost like a cough syrup or Robitussin, NyQuil, sort of deep red cherry. This is a lighter, more approachable, deep red. This is a lighter cherry than the previous one. This is fruity. This nose really stuck out. The aroma was the previous one was nice, but didn't have much of an aroma. This had more of a bouquet going on, more full body of a nose. This one I really thought some of us have had. I don't know I'm not a food person, but I want to say rhubarb. That might not be the right word. This some cranberry, more towards the back end. Definitely some fruits. Some of this, more like a compote almost on the palate. More dryness. I would say also towards the end, a little bit of a dry, astringent dryness, and then of the 4, this had some tartness on the back end of the palate into the finish, some tartness.
I enjoyed this one a lot. I think it had a stronger smell than the previous one, deeper flavor, right? Maybe not so broad in terms of like flavors, but a deeper flavor and drier. Lingers a little bit on the back end, but not so bitter. So I think that was something that I enjoyed out of this. It was drier, had a little bit more bite to it, but not very bitter. Still lighter, even though it had like a stronger smell and a deeper flavor.
I think one of the things that we noticed in this one, which should be mentioned on kosherwine.com, is this one had a very, very similar smell and taste to those that have cranberry apple kugel on Friday night. This is it. It was very similar to having those cranberries, maybe a little bit of blueberry in the background, but that cranberry kugel with that tartness is like, it was a really, really good way to describe this wine. Very, very good. A little bit of tartness, a little bit of dryness, a little bit of smoothness. It was a really good wine.
I thought this wine would go really well with some Swiss cheese or camembert.
Now we moved on from these 2 Shiran wines to 2 Ghito wines, also from Israel, also non-mevushal. We started off with Adom. This was a 2019 release. This was a much more exciting aroma, lighter, more both visually more transparent on the appearance, and also lighter. It had some black peppery notes throughout, but really fascinatingly, both some cherryness like the previous 2, but also blueberry notes, and then finishing off with some astringent dryness. This was a real treat.
I agree with the treatness. I think one of the words that we used was exciting. This bottle was an exciting flavor. Both, I should say aroma, appearance, palate, finish, all around exciting. It was one of those eye openers. Great wine all around. I think it did have a little bit of the cherry, that fruitfulness of the cherry, I think came through. A little bit light, in other words, it wasn't like a deep, heavy wine. It is a mixture of grapes, and so I think that's probably why it's not a single grape, and so it made it into a light, easy drinking, really exciting bottle.
So I don't mean this flippantly. I mean this in an absolutely serious way. I kind of thought of it like a rocket pop of sorts, like an Astro Pop or whatever they're called. Like really, this cherry and blueberry mix, you get some red, you get some blue, but it was also light. I really thought, and I mean that in a non-flippant way. This had a seriousness, but a lightness. It was a very fun and delectable wine. Finishing off, and we finished off really strongly with this Dudaim, also Ghito 2020. This is a real delight. I mean, look, the last one we already had a lovely aroma. This Dudaim really easily the aroma won the aroma of the night. Nose was incredible. Look, it looked a little bit darker on the appearance in the Adom of Ghito, but the aroma, it was a bold aroma. It was a bold, but in an incredibly appreciable way. Throughout the palate, I will say it was had blackberries. It had a subtle woodiness. None of these hit anybody over the head with woodiness or real barrel character. This one, we could tell it had spent time with wood, but in a very subtle way. No crazy wood characteristics. But this one, the last one had some black peppery notes, the Adom. This Dudaim had some light spicing that I really thought danced. The spicing danced not only throughout the palate, but on into the finish. This was a real treat to finish off our 4.
I'll just add that the analogy of a rocket and so on, and ascending, this really took us and lifted us in many respects. It reminded me of the wine I was weaned on. It reminded me of the wine from my bris. It was tremendous. So it was reminiscent of really good things. Finishing off strong really made a strong impact.
The appearance on this was really good. Compared to the Ghito Adom, which was kind of a light red, this was a really nice, rich ruby red color. But just as you've shared, not much spice in this compared to the previous one. Very clean finish. Some notes on the palate of blueberries, blackberries. Very smooth.
All 4 of these were fantastic, and really, we have had some interfacing with Shirans and Ghitos, but the Shirans were lovely and the Ghitos were fantastic. All 4 of these are available on kosherwine.com. Disclosure, they were all supplied by kosherwine.com to Jewish Ring for review purposes. These were lovely, and l'chaim.
L'chaim.
All right. Awesome. Yay.